What is up, fellow sickos? I am Dan Favale coming at you with the one, the only, my certified fantabulous co-host, Mr. Grant Hughes. We are here with an unplanned. We've been trying to get to awards this week, but we're here with an unplanned episode to talk about not even Giannis, even though that news came out. That's kind of just like, all right, we knew that this was coming. We're going to talk about the NBA's biggest disappointment, the Los Angeles Clippers. And because what we do around here is just ask questions. We're just going to ask. We can't be held responsible for where it leads us. There's going to be a lot of fake trades thrown around in this episode. But we want to know, is it just time for the Los Angeles Clippers to blow it up? And we're going to get into a lot of elements that go into that. But first and foremost, Grant, how the heck are you doing?
I just kind of want to answer that question, and it would be like, we're just under a minute. Yes, it is time, Dan. Is that good podcasting?
They beat the Hawks after they sent CP3 home.
A bunch of teams have, like, the Bucks, when Giannis goes down, just beat the Pistons. Like, what's happening? What's going on here? There's a few of these things going around where it's like, well, this team is going to be dead in the water tonight.
Is there such a thing as like mid-game Ewing theory, to where these other teams spend so much time planning around Giannis being there, and then he leaves, and it's, oh, what do we do?
Nah, and the Bucks are like, oh, thank God, we got this anchor out of the way. We can play now. The Clippers, like, so the news trigger here obviously is Chris Paul. I don't know how much you want to talk about that. Like, maybe this is too quick of a dive in, but like, what was your reaction when you read the report of, like, sent home? I mean, I guess he reported it, kind of, right?
He posted about it. Yeah, look, no one comes across looking good here. The stuff that's being leaked about what CP3 they kept the fact that they were citing how disparaging he was and that it was grating on, Lawrence Frank and Tyronn Lue, who would meet with him, and Kawhi and James Harden and all that. What was he saying? Like, you guys are all adults. What was he doing and if he was really saying these things that are outlandish, do you actually think, as someone who wasn't really playing, even given your credentials, that you were supposed to be doing that? But I ultimately came down not necessarily on the side of CP3, but this is CP3. His leadership style is notoriously grating, and you had him in your organization for so long to begin with. Did you not think that like, what were you expecting to do to barely play and to shut up? The Athletic had the report that they tried to keep his expectations in check, and I don't know if he was frustrated by the amount of time that he was actually spending on the court. I just, from the Clippers end, and I did, to my credit, I did say this when they signed him. Did they actually think it was okay just to reunite CP3 and James Harden? Because there's just some stuff floating around the ether that hasn't been publicly reported yet, that stuff was really bad too. And so this is completely, to me, at the behest of the Clippers front office, just really fucked up here. Because now you look, I don't know what the word is, but you've dismissed a franchise legend in the middle of the night on a road trip. I know that there were some travel issues with the way that they did it, and you could say, well, you would have been criticizing them had they not done it in person. That's all true. You made it one quarter of the way through the season and made the decision before like just deciding that this player you signed to a minimum contract and is a franchise icon, the best player in franchise history, quite frankly, you're just jettisoning it. And it was just a bad fit, as if we don't have a track record of what Chris Paul actually does behind the scenes.
Yeah, interesting. I think I do agree that if we're going to do the blame, slice up the blame pie, everybody's got a pretty good share of it here. But I was interested in your first reaction, because mine was kind of like, well, what we know about Chris Paul is that he's sort of like just known as a well-intentioned asshole. Like, he just, like, guys that play with him, I don't know that he's like disliked so much as like, it's just sort of roundly acknowledged that like his sort of relentless edge seeking, like, for everything from like, oh, that guy's jersey's not tucked in, and like chirping at the official, to like knowing every nuanced rule, to like inventing the 3-for-2 at the end of a quarter. Like, all this stuff is like, it's part of a personality that you can imagine in a locker room is just like a lot all the time, right? But he's also been historically great, so guys put up with it, and it does come from a place of like, he just wants to win, So I think, like, in the language of competitive NBA players, like, that's something they speak, like, to varying degrees across the board, so like they all get it. But my thought was like, yes, I absolutely believe Chris Paul became like too much, especially in a losing environment, especially when he's not playing, and guys are like, we weren't on the Lob City Clippers. What gives you the right? And you're not playing. Like why are, and especially, so that's part of it, but it's also just like, what was something different must have happened. Like, this cannot have been the same Chris Paul that was in San Antonio and played every game last year, right? Like, you didn't hear anything about this type of behavior there. And it's not like the Spurs were a great team last year. They weren't this, bad or this like sort of hopeless, but I wonder what was different. And to me, it kind of comes back to like, what I fixated on a lot was the relationship with Ty Lue. And maybe this was a situation where like, because like they're practically peers, Paul, given his experience, and Ty Lue,
right?
Like maybe it got to a point where it was just like Chris Paul sort of thought he was actually the coach here, or was like acting in a way that was like costing agency, from the people that needed it.
But when Kyrie made that quip when Steve Nash was head coach,
we're all the coach,
we're really we're a collective.
Yeah, we're a collective. Yeah, it made me wonder, like, or just sort of like, I trained my sort of like curiosity more towards that aspect of it, like, because you can deal with Chris Paul being how Chris Paul is, but maybe just the fact of him not being on speaking terms with his head coach, and I think one of the reports said he was doing a lot of locker room lawyering. Maybe there was like, it's not a power struggle per se, but it was like, our leadership dynamic is kind of wrecked because of how things are going between him and the head coach. Like, maybe that's what triggered it. Because you're 100% right. Like, to say, as the Clippers, you didn't know what getting into the Chris Paul business entailed. Like, he just has been this way.
He's been in the league for
forever.
20 years.
Right.
A good chunk of which was spent
commodity.
with you.
Right. Right. So yeah, I don't know. I was unsurprised by a lot of it, but then just, it's intriguing that like, what happened? What's different? What about this situation is so different?
And I don't want to spend too much time on more Chris Paul, but I did find it fascinating. Was there something too that there weren't enough guys for him to mentor here? Because when you look at the Spurs, they had young guys last year, and it's on the Clippers. It's, Niederhauser. What is Chris Paul going to do for him? Is it, Kobe Sanders, Kobe Brown? Like, these are the guys that they're going. So I wonder how much that had to do with it. Is there any teams that would make sense for Chris Paul really quickly? It almost has to happen via trade, unless there's some complicated stuff where you waive him and then just convert Kobe. But
I would say the teams, because I think you're very right about like the way that he is might resonate with early 20s guys. But like, if you're talking to James Harden and Brook Lopez and a bunch of guys that have been in the league for 15 years, they're like, yeah, man, we get it. Like, we don't need to be parented right now. I would say that the types of teams that make sense for him are ones with a bunch of young guys that need mentoring. But then why would he have any interest in playing for those types of teams?
Because you get to play. Maybe you actually get to play.
Playing is the key word. But like, if this is your farewell tour, like, you really want to go just lose? I guess that's what's happening with the Clippers. But you know what I mean? Like, the types of teams that should want him are the types of teams that, like, if I'm him, I don't want to go play for.
To me, there's an obvious team. It should just be New Orleans. Go back to New Orleans. Jeremiah Fears getting the mentor from Chris Paul. He'll probably, I know they have DeJounte Murray and other guard, but he'll probably play. But that would be just to salvage the situation. Because Minnesota's been floated, but is he doing, even if he's doing more for them than Mike Conley, is he doing more? Is he? And then two, is he doing more than Rob? Like, you don't want to see Rob Dillingham's minutes get slashed even further, or Jalen Clark, because was he eating into that? Just a bummer of a situation, because we didn't necessarily know this was his farewell tour, and then we did for 2 weeks, and this is like within 2 weeks.
And then the Clippers said goodbye.
So when we talk about the Clippers blowing it up, what everyone's gonna say, what the comments will probably say is, "Oh, they don't have their own picks moving forward," and I think that's important. I would argue that if you think this team is not good, you should just recoup what assets you can for them and move on anyway. But we have to ask, Grant, is there a chance that they could get their own picks back from Oklahoma City specifically? We actually have some other trades that might get them other picks back. But OKC, we recorded a whole podcast about this and its impact on league parity. But OKC owns the Clippers pick in 2026 outright and then can swap in 2027. Is there anything they could do to get one or both of those picks back? And the framework that you and I both have sort of kicked around is, you trade Ivica Zubac to Oklahoma City. and then you bring back Ousmane Dieng, and what's the other mid-end salary that we would throw in there?
Kenrich Williams is the one
Kenrich
that
Williams
suggested.
So you puts OKC in the tax, which could be problematic. They could figure out a way to get it if they're willing to give up maybe an Isaiah Joe or an Aaron Wiggins in a subsequent trade. But what you're doing is the Clippers. Now, this would be the question. It's twofold. So why do they want Zubats when they have Chet Holmgren and Hartenstein? Zubats is going to be significantly cheaper. He's under team control for more years than Hartenstein, who has this expensive team option that most people, for next year, most people think Oklahoma City's going to decline because they're going to be navigating apron concerns after the season. So the theory would be you get someone who's as good, maybe better, depending on how you feel, in Zubats, on a more reasonable salary, and it makes it easier to kind of fill in the pieces around them. I think what you're doing is planning for that. I don't know what type of signal this sends to Hartenstein if Zubats is all of a sudden just on the roster. How do you feel about bringing him off the bench for this season? Given Chet Holmgren's injury history, maybe there's just something to that. The other element of this, that's the obvious one for OKC, is would it make sense to do that knowing that the Clippers would then, I would assume, and this is where maybe we might differentiate, would also attach more distant first-round picks to Zubats, because in my head, it's what would it take to get the 2026 pick back and 2027? If I'm the Clippers, would I consider doing 2030 and then a 2031 swap attached to Zubats to get both of those picks back? I'm going to go on the record right now and say I am absolutely doing that if I'm the Clippers. You're kind of kicking the can down on your commitments, but those two picks, and specifically this season, because you're already pretty bad, are more valuable to the Clippers than any other team in the NBA.
It's very much like, what was it, Brooklyn and Houston? Like with the whole, like the Phoenix, Houston, Brooklyn pick interplay, where essentially, yeah, Brooklyn did it, right? Brooklyn needed its picks back because, boy, we're going to be bad. This needs to pay off somehow. And the price was like not quite 2-for-1 picks, but it was close to that, right? Like, so
it was
Brooklyn
pretty high. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think you're off base in saying that if the Clippers are going to get back 26 or 27, let alone both, they got to put real value on the table draft asset wise to even start that conversation. And that's with the Clippers also giving up probably their best like tradable player, like just in terms of like what Zubats makes, it's like 19 next year and 20 after that. So like I don't know where we rank him in starting centers now, but it's probably closer to top 5 than top 10. It's easily top 10. That kind of money for that player. So like, I'm just trying to draw the parallel between what Brooklyn had to give up. Is this enough? Is Zubats and a 2030 and a 2031 swap, right? Or actually, do you want to talk specifically about this package, this first one that you have there? Because you've got 3 first-round assets going out.
Because I think like that's how valuable getting those picks back.
No, I don't disagree. I just think we should lay it out so it's clear what we're talking, like how costly it is and probably should be, and how hard of a bargain the Thunder should drive because they know how desperate the Clippers are to get those more immediate picks back, right? So what do you want to go through the specifics of that deal?
Yeah, so the first one would be that the Clippers are getting Kenrich Williams, Ousmane Dieng. That's what they're getting out of the tax, by the way, I believe, as part of this, or at least close to it. Their own 2026 pick back, and then you're reversing those swap rights on the 2027 first-round pick. So they get their next 2 picks back. They are giving Oklahoma City Ivica Zubats, the Clippers' 2030 first-round pick, a 2031 first-round swap, and then I had put this in there as just is this what OKC like needs? Do you also consider including the 2032 first-round pick? You could protect it. You could do whatever you want to it. And on the surface, that seems insane. It's Zubats and control of 3 first-round picks for your next 2 first-round picks back. But the idea is the Clippers would be, we're still going to be flexible moving into 2027 and beyond, and we're going to get these. Now we can rebuild or be bad for these 2 years, get high draft picks in, and we will be better suited to give away picks in 2030, 31, and 32 than we would right now. Certainly Grant, there's the teams that have started, they started 5-15, or was it 5-16 they started?
Yeah.
There are, of all the teams in NBA history that have started 5-16 or worse, 7 of them have gone on to make the playoffs. And that's less than 4%. That's so it's just like
it's not happening. It's just not. I guarantee none of them were this old either, right? And it already breaking down.
Right. And so that's why this is so fascinating to me. So I'm curious, when you saw that, what were kind of your thoughts on, is this too much?
So if I'm the Clippers, I'm certainly not putting the 2032 on the table at the outset. But if I'm the Thunder, I'm insisting on it because, as I said, I know, look, like this is the only way out, right? For the Clippers. Like this is the only way to make the next 5 years like bearable, right? Is because you draft high in this one in 26 and you draft high in 27. Probably that's the plan because you're going to, I assume, as part of this whole deal, sell everything else off that you can, right? If you don't do that, there's no payoff for being just miserable this year and next. And those 2030 through 32 assets, yes, those are valuable, but that's a long way off. Like you're waiting to start your rebuild in the 2030s. Like that can't be the plan. So ultimately, I don't think that this is too much to give up for a shot at a real rebuild that starts in a matter of months as opposed to half a decade, right? Like that's what we're talking about here. This is the only way the Clippers can achieve that. So this is giving up basically, is it their 4 most valuable trade assets, like all in one deal? I think that's probably, I would be curious what the pushback is. Because my gut is like, yeah, you kind of got to do that if you're the Clippers. Like what is the argument against giving up all this for for control of 26 and 27 back? Because I'd love to hear it.
I'm also curious what do you think the Thunder, would they do this without the 2032 pick involved? And because you could say as the Thunder, right now OKC knows at least the 2026 pick should be great. But the thing about the Thunder right now is they're already so good that the idea of integrating, whether it's maybe it's not AJ DeBinso or Cam Boozer, but if it's a top 5, top 7 guy, whatever, it's almost harder now because of how deep you are and where everyone's at. And you're not getting older. You haven't, this core has not priced itself out of OKC just yet. And so the idea of having those picks out in the distance in years, where as of right now, this is going to shock people, the Thunder do not have extra first-round picks in 2030 and beyond, aside from their own. I feel like you could look at that as OKC, and even with 2032 gone, I probably would, like, if I'm Sam Presti, I'm absolutely trying to drive that bargain. But because if you look at it this way, it would be, from the Thunder's perspective, as to why you argue it's included there, is you would like the Clippers are giving you Zubats on like you're keeping the pick equity the same because you're subbing out 26 for 2030 and then 27 for 2031 and you're getting Zubats. And so the argument for OKC would be, well, we know these picks are going to be valuable right now, these imminent ones. That's why you have to include 2032. But I found it interesting from the Thunder's perspective to where does it help them navigate? Like, it really doesn't change to me how they're navigating the next couple years. If anything, to me, I think that it would just open up their ability to keep this thing going for longer.
I think that's right. I guess like part of it too is I don't know, the last 2 higher end first rounders the Thunder have chosen still haven't played. So it's like, so we're going to have Topic and we're going to have Sorber integrate into this thing eventually, plus guys that we're going to get in 26 and 27. Like at some point there's just not room for those players. Now, like, if you do believe that you're going to get that this pick is going to say 26 is going to turn into one of these like theoretically generational guys, like you do give that some real thought, but isn't there some element of like, as the Thunder, like we can't even use these guys yet. Like why? And we're going to continue to be struggling with how do we keep this core together and manage costs. And like, I don't know, there's some value then, isn't there, in, like you said, kicking the can down the road to where, all right, we're not going to onboard a rookie to start next season that's making like whatever the second or third or fourth pick, like $15 million, and is going to be like making mid-level plus money and maybe not being able to play. And we're just waiting on this guy. Like maybe there's some sense in just like, we'll just worry about that in 2030 when theoretically we've got other guys that are getting expensive. Like the flexibility, pushing the flexibility out further, I think makes a little bit of sense, right? From the Thunder's perspective. Cause like, how great does this incoming set of rookies in 26 and 27 need to be to matter like at all for this team? Like they almost can't possibly make this team better.
Could you have said the same thing though, a couple years ago, last year about AJ Mitchell? or even this year about
you're
AJ
making
Mitchell, or about
that guy's available in the second round apparently, so you don't need to need to commit the resources to picking the guy in the lottery if you can find AJ Mitchell's all over the place.
So you have something in our notes that, do you think it would take less, or is it just going after the 2020? Like, if you're just going after one of those picks, is there even a
right?
I think for the Clippers too, it's, you're bad now, so the 2026 pick I would assume would be the priority. But if you can get 2027 back to where then there's this 1 year reset basically before you owe the 2 picks to Philly, you could consider something like that. But what were your thoughts on just getting one of those picks?
Well, it's less about getting just one. I know my note, basically the note is just, is there anything to Hartenstein in the 26th first for Zubats? Or for Zubats in the 26th first, I guess that should say. You know what I mean? It's really more about, okay, so if you're bringing in Zubats in this trade, like Hartenstein has a non-guarantee for $28.5 million next year. You need him and Chet. You need all 3 of these guys for this season. Like, is there something to just building it around him, who for the Clippers, he could just come off the books. You could waive him, or you could flip him, or you could just renegotiate, decline, or don't pick the guarantee up. Don't guarantee the salary, renegotiate. Is that bigger salary, and one that definitely does save the Thunder more money, right? If we're concerned about getting them under the tax, or not the tax, the second apron next year. Does just building this around Hartenstein make more sense? I just was curious on, like, why aren't we starting there?
So for me, it was just because why mess with a good thing to that degree? And it's funny because Kevin Pelton just wrote something at ESPN about how long it can take new arrivals to be integrated even when they have an off season. And he went through Desmond Bane and Cam Johnson were 2 of the primary examples. So I'd just be nervous about, why are we shaking? They might just win 74-plus games this year. And so why are you shaking any part of the actual core up? And it seems like their locker room would be built to traverse the dynamics of, well, we have Jay Will, Chet, Isaiah Hartenstein, and Zubac. They'll just figure it out. Like, Shea doesn't have to play fourth quarters right now. They could throw out 3 centers at some point if they want. They could do whatever they want. And so you could do something like that, or you could look at it as, why not just get Zubac and then trade him for more first-round picks?
Right.
And you could then figure out the Hartenstein thing down the road.
Can we, I really, at the core of this whole discussion, and this won't just be about the Thunder, but we sort of had to start here because they have the Clippers picks.
Oh, fake trades galore are coming, folks.
What a flex, where you, as the Thunder, you're like, you could be offered this incredible, like, this is a great deal, right? You just to say it's Zubats for like a couple rotation guys, and you're going to get, I don't know, more first than you're sending out. And you can you can look around and be like, we don't need to do that. Or really even more, like, firmly say, like, why would we do that? It's almost impossible for us to be better. Why would we make any trades? Like, anything we do almost by definition makes us worse, because, like, you can't be better than we are. If you want to judge it by, like, point differential historically, like, it's impossible. Like, no one has ever been better. Like, how ambitious are we? So it's just like, what? It's just, again, this should have been on the Thunder podcast we did last week or whenever it was, but it's just like, they don't have to do this. And that posture is why they can just say, give us everything and we'll maybe think about it, Clippers.
Well,
and so, man.
That leads us to that we're just asking questions, everybody. Who says no? Zubats, the Clippers' 2030 first-round pick, 2031 first-round swap, and 2032 first-round pick to the Thunder for Ousmane Dieng, Kenrich Williams, and control of the Clippers' next 2 picks back. What is the team that is saying no?
If anyone's saying no, it's the Thunder, because the Clippers should do that in a heartbeat, right? They should. They have to.
They should.
It's the only way, like we said.
Do you think that's a viable offer to get OKC thinking, or no? They're not even having a discussion about it.
I think you do think about that. You're getting the best player in the deal by a ton, and you're getting 3 picks for 2. Like, so what? Of course you think about it.
You know what ends up happening is that they also end up getting the Clippers seconds in 2031 and 2030. That's that's the end result of all this.
Yeah,
so.
no, but the Clippers should do that 10 times out of 10. Like, why? The only thing you can do to salvage this is to get control of your picks back. So, yeah, you got
in the chat, Venkatamata Majuri 7679 proposed Derek Jones Jr. and Chris Dunn and Kobe Brown for Kelly Olynyk and maybe Carter Bryant. As we're going to be getting into some bigger name trades here. I would imagine the Spurs shut that down pretty quickly, would be my guess.
Maybe if Derek Jones were healthy, because you could make, I mean, Derek Jones is the healthy version of him is just something the Spurs could really use, just a nightmare wing defender who can make threes. Like they sort of don't have that guy, but I mean, they're another team
that's probably hoping Carter Bryant turns into that, but he doesn't.
Right, the shooting
play a
is
ton,
so
and the shooting
speculative with him. But like he might be a better defender than Derek Jones Jr. right now. That's ridiculous. But you know what I mean.
The other trade they propose is maybe John Collins and seconds for Keon Ellis and Monk. The Kings might just be Kingsy enough to do that. I don't know the value of that I think that helps the Clippers now, for sure. I just don't know, like from the Clippers' perspective, that doesn't. Keon Ellis is great, sure,
right.
I just don't know what that does for there. So now you have Monk and Harden and Keon Ellis. It just seems a little. Would you do that as the Clipper? I guess I probably would. Would you do that as the Kings? I think
I would just. I think I would, because it seems like Collins is just turned back into a pumpkin, and then I don't know, Ellis is someone you could re-sign, and I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's not. I don't know that moves the needle much one way or the other. The Kings going after John Collins for it would be hilarious.
So let's start. I think the two names that you need to talk about is like, what would the markets be like for James Harden and Kawhi? Let's begin with, which player do you want to begin with? And then we could go through some of the trades that we have for them.
I think we may as well start with Harden. He's been playing great and has been, again, just like I just never saw this season coming after last season felt like an outlier. So I think, I mean, I still don't know. We're going to get into it. I don't know what his value is, because he's such a singular guy that changes how you operate. That it's, you know, I don't know. I'm glad you came up with this one, because I don't know what I would trade.
So what trade? For. Let's go back and forth. Which trade do you want to? Which team do you want to start with?
Let's go with the Wolves one, just because that's next. That's first in line here. So here are the particulars. The Los Angeles Clippers receive Jalen Green and Bones Highland. The Minnesota Timberwolves get Harden and Haywood Highsmith. The Brooklyn Nets get Mike Conley, Leonard Miller, a 26th second. That's like the second most favorable of 50 different teams. Memphis is 26th second. That's got protections from 43 to 60, so not a bad one. And Cleveland's 27 second. That is via Minnesota. The Suns get Julius Randle. A lot of moving parts here, but I guess the main things are the Clippers wind up with Jalen Green as the headliner, Harden to Minnesota, and Randle to Phoenix, with the Nets kind of playing facilitator, basically.
So do you think the Nets are getting enough to take on Mike Conley up 3 seconds to do that?
I mean, I guess if you're going to nitpick, that's the part where you might say, like, why are they jumping in to help out if this is all they're getting? You could find other seconds somewhere if you needed to, but like Mike Conley's salary is not just like this crippling thing. I don't feel like that's a hang up. So that's not going to scuttle the deal. And just for transparency's sake, you kind of just need another team involved here that can help out a little bit. And the Nets are the lucky one here.
Oddly enough, I like this deal the most for Phoenix, because I feel like Julius Randle actually upgrades a position of need. They're so reliant on Dylan Brooks' shot creation right now.
Yeah.
For the Clippers, it's just, you're not getting any picks. You're just saying, hey, we're getting younger with Jalen Green and taking a flyer on that, and we're pivoting away when Jalen Green is healthy. Mm-hmm. Minnesota was the hang up for me, because I think Julius Randle has had, by and large, a really good offensive season. And this is just the ultimate, even though Julius Randle's there, so you could say the same thing. It's like the ultimate form of trust in Rudy Gobert still being just a defensive superhero, which apparently he still is when you look at
he has been.
He has been. And then the Haywood Highsmith element of it to me is very interesting, just because when he comes back, assuming he comes back from his right knee surgery, that's a really helpful player. Just a 3-and-D wing who can guard across those 2, 3, 4 spots. I don't know who says no to this. It's like, if you're the Clippers, do you look at this and say, we're giving away the player who on paper is probably having the best individual season, so getting Jalen Green and let's say getting out of the tax is the end game, that's not enough for us?
I mean, maybe, especially because Harden, I never forget. So he's got the player option for next year. So it's not like, but that's a partial guarantee, right? So $13 million guaranteed. So the counter might be from the Clippers, like, I don't know, we'd rather just pay him $13 million to not be here next year than have Jalen Green. But I think Jalen Green's worth more than just letting Harden go, paying Harden to go away. The thing, I guess, what I focus on most is the Minnesota side of this, because one, it's the best team we're talking about in this exchange, and two, it's like Harden is he's been so good this season, and would seem to address the issue in Minnesota, which is just, can we get a guy to create shots that aren't Anthony Edwards self-created step back threes and crunch time? You know, saying all that, the Wolves are 5th in offense, so like,
right.
But
and is it an overcorrection because it's James Harden rather than just like someone who's more inclined to work off the ball?
Maybe the threshold question is, personally, I think the Wolves offense still kind of is the problem. Like, they've given away a bunch of games late with just bad execution.
Right. Isn't that insane? You look at where they rank in offense, and it's even just insane. You look at where they rank in offense and defense, and you just still don't feel great about their season. That's nuts to me.
It is, but it's like, I do think, having watched them a fair amount and seen some of these maybe if I'd watched every Wolves game and not happened to have seen like all the late game catastrophes in addition to a few like non-catastrophes, I'd feel differently. I still just think like the aesthetics and just the style of the offense, I don't trust if you're trying to get where they're trying to get, which is like, I don't know, they're trying to make the conference finals at least, right? That's the bar for them. So do you think that's a big enough problem to justify the risk of adding Harden and like all of the trickle down that would occur with like, what's Edwards do now? And like, is it a good thing to reduce his usage? And what is this? Like, you can make the case that Harden would be exactly what they need, but you could also just as easily say like, this is way too disruptive to a team that's 5th in offense.
And so you trust the late game dynamic with Harden more than you would with Randall. And it's also just, Randall we have Naz, as the Wolves, you have Naz Reid sitting there. You can move J Mac into more 4 minutes without him on the roster. This is just perpetually either undervaluing or not knowing how to value Julius Randle. Makes this
let's
so
think
tough.
too about the argument we're making here is we're worried about the Wolves playoff performance on offense,
right?
And the solve is James Harden, like the worst playoff performer among superstars of all time.
It's like the Ty Lue saying that they need Bradley Beal to return to all defense level. Like, we need James Harden to recapture his playoff form. We have in the comments someone saying like, it'd probably be better for the Clippers if they get Rob Dillingham, and I'd agree, but like, I can't, if I'm Minnesota, given how good Julius Randle's been, unless you're really high on Highsmith, or they could appreciate the flexibility of James Harden's contract being 1 year shorter if he even stays that long than Julius Randle's. But I don't know. Giving up Rob Dillingham and Julius Randle to get James Harden, if I'm the Wolves, I'm absolutely saying no to that. Maybe I'm at this point, I'm still just holding out hope that Rob Dillingham pops at some point. But that one's tough. I can't go. Even this one for me as the Wolves, this is the team, honestly, that I struggled with it the most. I think is the team that I think that's fair about.
Because if you step all the way back, you're saying, like I just said a minute ago, we're worried about our playoff ceiling. Let's turn to James Harden. Like that might be just the end of the discussion, because it's like his track record is such that like he's going to fail in the playoffs, and he can't sort of be an ancillary player just because of how he plays. So you're really tying your fate to him. Maybe being next to Edwards changes that. I don't know. The case for it from Minnesota's side is just Dillingham. Just say Dillingham's in, like, if he ever is going to be any good, he's probably not going to do it on our timeline right now. By the time Dillingham's really good, Gobert will have fallen off or will be gone. Like, I don't know, Randall is at the apex of his value. That's another reason to do this if you're Minnesota, like, or at least recently. Like, Randall's been so good that like you can't bank on getting more for him going forward, I don't think. But yeah, it's a tough ask for Minnesota to like upend things to this degree.
Let's go to another James Harden trade. We should probably save the Bucks stuff for the end so we could talk about Giannis a little bit more. Sure. I'm going to throw this one up on screen just to cause some chaos. James Harden of the Warriors, Grant, I don't have this in our doc because the framework is basically like it's Kuminga, and then it would have to be basically 4 for 1 or 3 for 1. And Kuminga is the salary anchor that goes out. Are you willing as the Warriors? Are you so confused about where they are? Or is DeAnthony Melton coming back soon and you're saying, no, everything's going to be okay? But the idea of having James Harden, Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, and Draymond Green on the same team, it's not a fever dream so much as an acid trip. And I would kind of like to see it.
I would like to see it just for just to see it. Just like, what does that even look like? I think if I'm talking about how Harden would upend things for the Wolves, isn't it just that's why it's so hard to imagine. He's like the most antithetical player stylistically to how Golden State has played offense forever, that like I just don't even know what that looks like. Having said that, I like it could work. Like, so now Curry's running around off the ball and Harden's running pick and rolls. Like, I don't know, stranger things have been successful.
So, let's say you don't give up a first round pick, but you're probably giving up two of Kuminga's one, and then I think to make the money work, you're gonna have to give up either Pods or Moses Moody.
I mean, I think first of all, Kuminga's gone anyway. So like he almost like, yeah, he doesn't even like rate to me as like, oh, you're giving him up. Like he's basically not there. So
well, I thought the idea would be maybe we get someone who's not closer to 40 than 30.
Right. Well, like you gotta, you've come this far. Like what? Let's double down on.
Yeah. So then they should trade DeRozan immediately
for sure. No, it's not the outgoing package it would take so much, because I'm kind of lower on Podziemski at this point than I've been really ever.
Are you okay? So like, blink twice if you're being held captive. Is everything all right over there?
I've always had questions about him, haven't I? I guess I did pick him for all rookie when he made it, so I wasn't wrong. It's just the fit is just so hard to imagine that I don't know what to do with it. Like I don't know, I have no concept of how that team looks. So that's my hang up, as opposed to like, oh, you can't give up all these assets. Like, yeah, all right, give them up, I guess. I don't know. It's a fair trade. I just don't know how to process it.
Would you give up a first round pick to do it?
I don't know, probably not, just because we're seeing that this team is pretty close to the end of the run, and you can't be in the business of giving up the way.
Honestly, if I'm getting Kuminga and then at least one of Moody or Pods, and I'm the Clippers, I'd probably just do it.
Yeah,
because like that's just okay. Those are like some youngish guys that you look at. Say like, let's try and see where this leads us. Anyway,
yeah.
So
and then you could give Kuminga the ball, all the high usage role that he wants, and see what happens. And like Kawhi's got to be gone too, I guess, but that's sort of a given in any Harden conversation.
You want to take us through another James Harden trade?
Let's see. So we're saving the Bucks. Okay, here's one. The Atlanta Hawks are on the line, and they're offering Trae Young to the Clippers. And in return, the Hawks are getting James Harden, Brook Lopez, a 2030 first rounder, and a 2031 first round swap. The question here, and I think you're right to point it out, so I'll ask you, Atlanta does deserve to get picks here, because the people are going to bump on that, given Harden's age relative to the only piece going back in Trae Young. Is that like, because I did bump on the picks a little bit. So explain.
Yeah,
yourself.
I mean, I guess if you're so low on Trae Young and you're just saying we're not going to re-sign him, even if he picks up his player option, we're just going to either trade him or let him come off the books and leave. You'll take because this would be a weird challenge trade otherwise. Well, maybe it's not, because it shortens your timeline, but if you don't view Trae Young as a keeper, does it actually shorten your timeline?
Does it affect it at all? Like it's just kind of a this year thing, really, from Atlanta's perspective, if you think about it.
And look, James Harden is not easy to plan around defensively, but he's just bigger, so he's going to be slightly easier to hide in some defensive matchups, which might be worth considering. Where do you land on then? I just feel like Trae is so much younger, and he's a transcendent passer, and I just refuse to believe that even if you don't think he is an all-NBA caliber player, you're getting someone who's nearly a decade younger than James Harden. I think you have to give up a pick, at least a swap, to make it happen.
I think that's probably right. I guess like we can't know this, but if I'm the Clippers, I think you're getting one of these picks out of me. But if it's going to be both, I kind of want to know that I'm going to be able to re-sign Trae Young for significantly less than the max, because like I do this type of trade is one that sees the Clippers saying we're not rebuilding or bottoming out. Like Trae Young is much younger than Harden, but he's not so young that it's like, all right, 7-year window, it's more just like we're going to try to stay pretty good and build around a player that in a lot of respects is kind of similar to Harden, I guess. So the 2 picks is a lot, unless I'm getting an absolute heist of a deal on Young's extension, or
let's say he's signing the James Harden deal basically, or like 3 for 100.
think I'm more, and again, I would have to, as the Clippers, be saying we are not tearing down or rebuilding. That's
no,
not.
Kawhi is staying and this Zubats is staying. Yeah, for sure.
I think then it makes a little bit more sense. I could see myself justifying that as the Clippers. But if you're 4 for 229 or whatever the max is that Young can sign for, and I'm giving up 2 firsts, like I don't think that's a successful recipe.
It does say a lot, though, because I've been in the camp of I don't think the Hawks need to trade Trae Young. But when I put this package together, my first thought was if I'm the Hawks, I might just pounce on this.
Right.
It's kind of just YOLOing it for this season. Then you figured out at the end of summer you have these distant Clipper picks in the offing. I guess you could argue, could the Clippers turn things around by them just because they are in the LA market? But they're going to be out of picks for roughly forever if they make this trade.
Of course, then you can as Atlanta, roll James Harden and these picks you just got into a Giannis offer, and then it's not quite a YOLO for this season. You can get real nuts with it.
Now, here's the real question: do you trust James Harden playing for a team that is so local to Magic City?
No, but I want to see it. I'd like to see what happens. Can I just as a curiosity?
Can I take us through? This is another unplanned one, but it's straight up, so you don't have to think about it. It's again Jalen Green for James Harden, but James Harden is winding up on the Phoenix Suns. So it's similar compensation what the Clippers already see, but is it for the Suns worthwhile to try something? Because they could maybe use the shot creation, but you have Dylan Brooks and Grayson Allen, Devin Booker, of course. What do you say to this as the Suns?
Well, the first thing I want to look up is I can't remember what Jalen Green's okay, so there's no out. So Jalen Green is gonna make $36 million next year, and has done 0 due to injury for the Suns this season. I wonder if is it valuable to the Suns to just be able to pay Harden $13 million to not play next year, and so they're effectively gonna save $23 million over what they would have paid Jalen Green. Maybe
there's that.
Plus another 36 in a player option the following year. There is.
I don't know if he's the best fit for the way that they're playing right now, but they're
that
also
is my
not...
exact question to you: is how do you feel about James Harden joining a team that has defined itself by like maximum defensive effort, full court pressure,
offensive rebounding,
ball movement, all this stuff?
Here's my thing: is just the way that Devin Booker has struggled to score this year. I think he's been fantastic as a passer for the most part. I don't hate it because you're getting 0 from Jalen Green right now, and even if you think he comes back, James Harden is certainly a more credible playmaker and obviously a more credible scorer. It's just the timeline is shrinking. But as you said, you save money quicker. They would probably end up having to make another trade after this because they'd be deeper into the tax, and I'm assuming they want to duck it. But if I'm Phoenix, I think I'm thinking about it. How's that for an endorsement?
No, I think on some level you don't get to complain. Speaking about me and I guess us collectively, you don't get to complain about Phoenix's total failure to get a point guard and then turn down like a James Harden acquisition, right? Like,
it's like, what does this do to Colin Gillespie and Jordan Goodwin or having like you just have to. I'm being semi-serious though. You just continue playing ultra small. Where it's Devin Booker was at the 4 in that lineup. That's fine.
Harden would address what we thought was a huge need that was going to sink the team. Except the Suns have found a lot of workarounds, and it feels like he absolutely does not fit with the way that they've been playing this season. And the way they've been playing this season is the reason they're like one of the most positive surprises in the league. So I don't know. We have
2 more Harden suitors that aren't, this is non-Giannis related. So which one you want to go to?
Let's do what do we got here? Let's do the Pistons one. I can read that off here. So the Clippers would get Tobias Harris, Jaden Ivey, Marcus Sasser, a 26 first rounder with top 10 protections, becomes a 2 seconds if it's not conveyed. The Pistons get James Harden and Brook Lopez. Worth noting that in this hypothetical, the Clippers do get out of the tax. And then you might bump on, what do you think about the Ivy piece of it? Because I think that might really entice the Clippers, but you could imagine Detroit not being so keen on that.
Right, and it seems like a lot, but it's also this year's first round pick isn't going to be good, and I don't know if you could do it. So I guess this would be considered bold. I'm jumping on this as the Pistons if that first round pick's not included. If Jaden Ivey still has the mystique enough for the Clippers to say, "Hey, yeah, we'll give up James Harden for this," but he's about to be
here.
He's the centerpiece. And he's going into restricted free agency. I guess you don't. RFA is just inherently repressive for players to begin with, and Jaden Ivey hasn't done anything that would make you suggest he's going to get this mega salary anyway. And so if you're the Clippers and you view him as a potential long-term piece, I guess the issue would be it's not paying him, but what if you decide, hey, he's not worth it? We've now traded James Harden for Marcus Sasser, essentially. Yeah. And so that's where I struggled with because I know we haven't been floating a ton of first-round picks here, but I think the Clippers, some of these teams we propose don't have first-round picks available. And the Pistons are just so good that giving up a protected 2026 first-round pick, like that thing is going to be, especially if you have James Harden, my guess would be in the bottom 10. How did you feel did you expect the Pistons to be on this list?
I did not. But again, this is a little bit like the Suns where it's like, I don't know if you're diagnosing the Pistons' problems. Certainly before the season, you would have said secondary creation. It seems like they've been, again, figured out enough workarounds with their defense and their paint protection and Jalen Duren leaps and all this other stuff to where that doesn't feel like as huge a deal, but it still is like they still need somebody better than Jaden Ivey or more reliable or something to be the secondary creator next to Cade. So Harden addresses that. Maybe the core question then is like, I mean, shouldn't Cade still be the primary initiator here? And what does James Harden look like as your second? Like, is that something he's willing to do? Is that something he's actually valuable as,
right?
You know, like how much he's just such a, if you have James Harden, you play a certain way. And like, he's been successful to some extent next to Kawhi, but like, even that's different than playing with Cade, because Cade is just a point guard, right? Like that's
it
really
would be
what he is.
Because you could look at it and say, well, the way that Cade was able to thrive when Dennis Schroeder came in the fold last year, it's just different with Harden because you're probably asking Cade to adjust even more notches to his game. And why would you want to do that when he might be first team All NBA at the moment? So there's also just the cost is low enough to where I could hit the YOLO button. And I know I said I'd probably do it if the first round pick isn't involved, and I probably still would, but this is also the type of trade that theoretically could submarine your season a little bit, regardless of what the cost is. And then also you're giving up Tobias Harris. And so what is this doing to your forward depth? We want them to address that as it is an upgrade. And so it's a lot of, okay, you trust in Asar Thompson, Ron Holland, but you're not, that might, you play dual bigs, Duren and Stewart, but you're not doing that spot in the rotation any favors.
No, that's a great point. Like Harris is like, we should make a list sometime of like the worst player that is most critical on like a good team. Because like, other than Harris, the Pistons like don't have a decently sized forward that can shoot, like they just don't have a guy that does what he does, which is a problem. Like, but he's valuable to that locker room. Everybody likes him. He does make shots. Like, it still is like, you trade Tobias Harris. Like, what? I guess you're just all in on the Stewart Duren shared minutes, because you can't, like, Duncan Robinson is to me is a weak spot as it is. Like, if he's going to be a 4, if you play more Holland and Thompson, your spacing hurt. Like, it's hard to lose Harris in a deal, even if Harden does address another pretty big need. I don't know.
Next up, we have the Memphis Grizzlies. And so the trade here would be James Harden to Memphis, along with the Brook Lopez, the Clippers' 2030 first-round pick, 2031 first-round swap, and the 2032 first-round pick. And then the Clippers get Ja Morant. So they duck the tax here, and they have traded like 3 of their 4 most valuable assets because Zubac is on the team, and they've decided we think Ja Morant is going to be healthy and is still the type of player that can spearhead an entire organization on the basketball court. I don't know why the Grizzlies are getting more for Ja Morant than Atlanta gets for Trae Young is the one thing that I can't figure. Like, and again, I was the one who came up with this trade. When you say Ja Morant's name or the theory of Ja Morant, like, doesn't it for some reason entice you more than Trae Young?
I mean, younger, under contract for longer, right? Like that's a factor. It's easier in a weird way, like because he's played so little, it's almost easier to talk yourself into the idea that like, well, change of scenery, he'll be fine, than it is for Trae, who's just like, we understand what Trae Young is at this point. So there's that like sort of unknown aspect and upside aspect. Having said that, the Grizzlies are they're doing the thing that Atlanta had to do, where they were calling New Orleans like, for real though, like, are you sure this pick is unprotected? For you just want number 13 that bad? Like, the Grizzlies are the ones that are having to verify this is actually the real offer. Because
so you're pouncing on it if you're the Grizzlies.
Why would you hesitate? You're moving off Morant. You're getting financial flexibility. You're getting a player that today, right now, is better than Ja Morant and might be next year if you want to keep Harden around. You're getting 3 first-round assets, and you're shorting the Clippers' future, where you're sending Ja Morant, who might just be as big a problem there as anywhere else. Like, that, there's a lot of angles where you win this big time as the Grizzlies, right?
There is, and so is the Clippers are because what's tough about the Trae Young and Ja Morant scenarios is that the Clippers are saying we're not going to. This is not part of any sort of teardown. They're not making the trade to get their picks back from OKC that we outlined at the top of the podcast, and it's inherently shaky to believe that Trae Young or Ja Morant could spearhead your entire future. I think if I'm the Clippers, is there a level of pick equity that, as the Clippers, you would feel, okay, this might be, if you take out the 2032 pick, so it's a pick and a swap in James Harden and you're ducking the tax, is that, getting you to think about it? Or no, you'd be out on that direction
altogether? I don't know that I'd be out on it altogether. I would try to peel off 1 or 2 of those picks, but just looking at the offers we've discussed so far, I mean, Trae Young, we've talked about, but like, if you squint as the Clippers, like, Morant might be the guy that gives you the highest upside, right? Because like more so than Jalen Green, more so than, I don't know, what else did we do? More so than Morant is like
Julius Randle.
Like
up in Phoenix. That's
Morant is. I don't know that I believe that there's like a bunch of upside there, but it's a plausible argument, right? That like you get him in a new city on a new team, maybe he's back to all NBA. It's your mic.
You get him live. We did the mute thing. There you go. Thank you for letting me know that was so quickly. You also, I don't know how much would be a consideration. I think it would be more so for Ja than Trae. You're in LA. You're definitely putting butts in seats if Ja Morant is the tentpole of your organization, assuming he's playing, right? So just the idea of Ja Morant, think about how massive of a figure he became in Memphis, and then now translate that to Los Angeles.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, that's not nothing, because like right now I would say like the Clippers sort of public perception is not so hot. There's like not a lot of likable guys on the roster. I mean, they sent one home already. They're alienating franchise legends. They've got the aspiration stuff. Like, I mean, maybe Morant just as a distraction would be welcome.
Right. Can we talk about the Clippers' treatment of their stars? What they did to Blake Griffin was dirty when they made the lifelong Clipper pitch and then traded him. They basically held DeAndre Jordan captive that 1 year free agency, and now they're telling Chris Paul to go home. What's that Lob City era, man?
And yet they've really set things up nicely for Kawhi, which again gets you an Uncle Dennis, because that's the only guy that can make sure the Clippers treat you right.
We do. So now I think is a good time to talk about Giannis specifically, because it's going to bleed into some of the Kawhi trades. And Grant and I are going to have something else that drops that is going to dig more into this. But the 2 things I wanted to get into with you is, so Giannis, meanwhile, is dealing with a calf strain throughout all this. Is going to be out for another 2 to 4 weeks. And we get the report from Shams that he and his agent are once again talking with the Bucks and trying to figure out his future. That is just sort of, we heard about this over the offseason. Now we're hearing it again 1/4 of the way through the season. What is going on here, Grant? Because in Shams' story, one of the things it mentioned is, I had thought Giannis believed in the Bucks as, if I'm healthy, we can be competitive and we'll be able to recalibrate in the summer of 2026. But it says that he bought into the idea as the Bucks as contenders this season, which I just never saw. And my whole thing, the calf strain is going to be another wrinkle. My question about this, why now? Well, if this is how it was going to, because doesn't it seem at this point, we know how this is going to end, is he wants out, and it feels like he doesn't want to flat out say it. This feels very what the Blazers were doing to Damian Lillard, where they wanted him to ask out rather than just trading him, and did everything in their power to force him to ask out. Or maybe it's the same as Damian Lillard in Portland, where he kind of wanted out but refused to flat out ask for it. Just make the damn trade request already and put us all out of, I don't want to say misery because people love trades, but I don't understand. I get wanting to finish your career in Milwaukee, but I don't understand only giving it. What was the agreement? Well, we're going to give it like 20 games or so this season, see where we're at, and then I'll decide.
I mean, how much do you want to talk about this now? Because like we could go. I've thoughts. Like we can really dive deep into the honest.
Well, I don't want to get too much. I want to dive deep into the honest thing. But we're going to do that at later. I'm just like the whole time. Like, don't you find this whole like this season specifically, and now that how does the calf injury then impact? Do you think it makes it more likely because if the Bucks start losing now, are they going to be more open to moving him? And I guess this is the framing for actually what we're talking about here. If you're the Bucks and they're still Giannis is still conveying, like, I'm not totally opposed to staying. We're just trying. I need to see some evidence. Are you now working the phones and trying to see, like, or does this make it less likely if you thought they weren't going to move a future first-round pick before and they can move a pick and a swap right now? It's even less likely that they do so after this latest wrinkle coming out.
I think for purposes of discussion, let's embrace the fiction that the calf injury means that, well, it's even harder than it was already going to be to trade Giannis for acceptable value in season. So our move now is let's wait the 2 to 4 weeks it's going to take him to recover. God knows if that's anywhere remotely close to what the recovery timeline will actually be. And let's try to win this season. And because like we can go to Giannis and say, again, I'm just trying to lay out.
You're just asking questions.
I'm just trying to, I guess this is like devil's advocacy. I don't know what I would call what I'm doing right now, but the Bucks go to Giannis and say like, here's the landscape. Knicks can't make us an offer we're willing to accept. Sorry, I know you want to go there. It just doesn't make sense right now. Nobody else is coming forward with an offer for a guy that like might tear his Achilles when he comes back, like, or just like it can't happen is what the Bucks are saying to Giannis. So what would you like us to do? And he says, okay, well, maybe I'm going to be back after the All-Star break and let's get somebody that can help us. So what does that look like, right? That's the world we're living in right now, which gets us to a possible, because I want to talk all about the other Giannis stuff, and we will. There's just too much to get through. If you're not
subscribed, I would come back. Subscribe. Yeah. You can come back for the episode that's dropping.
We have to discuss that at some level of depth. So the Bucks we're living in this world I've just created where Giannis is staying. The Bucks can't make a trade to move him. So they're going to do what they've always done, which is go try to find somebody, risky as he needs to be, to make this year's Bucks as close to a contender as possible. Enter James Harden. The Clippers receive Kyle Kuzma, Gary Harris, Kevin Porter Jr., a 2030 first-round swap, which is the less favorable of Milwaukee and Portland, and a 2031 first-round pick. You can make that 2032 if you want. The Bucks can only trade one of those two. Milwaukee gets James Harden. I mean, Harden would address a few things, namely someone to create other than Giannis. That's less of a concern now that Ryan Rollins is really good. He wouldn't help their point of attack defense, but he is like probably the best gettable big name that could make an impact and just inject a certain level of like wild cardiness into the Bucks makeup. So that's why Milwaukee would consider this. Is he the guy you fire at if you're in this hypothetical of we got to get somebody else in here to help Giannis when he's healthy?
What if Giannis says, yeah, I'm staying? If that's honestly
until he wants to explore his future, whether that's with the Bucks or somewhere else in like 2 more months. Yeah, right. We're going to say you have to have that assurance that like, I'm going to stop having my agent leak to Shams the same report that was leaked over the summer. We'll knock all that off if you go trade for James Harden. Maybe that's worth it.
When I watch the Bucks, I feel like I'm more concerned about the defense, which is funny because I think I said in preseason that they're going to be a better defensive team than an offensive team. I didn't see Ryan Rollins coming, to be fair. No. Did anybody? And
you did.
But they're in the 10th percentile of offensive efficiency when Giannis doesn't play. And that's with the Pistons game, the other in there. So they certainly need what James Harden brings. Let's venture back to what we said when we were talking about the Timberwolves, though. We know what might happen in the playoffs with Harden. So I don't think this is the guy that you fire all what's left of your assets at. I think it's somewhat intriguing because sub $40 million does make the money easy to match. You don't have to give up Bobby Portis to make this deal work. Like you can game it around. What the end of package final package ended up being? It was Kuzma,
Harris, and Porter, basically.
So you were able to keep like, okay, we still have Portis and Turner and Giannis. Our front court is set. I'd be intrigued, but are the Clippers going to accept less pick equity for that? Because as the Bucks, you could just say any first round pick we give you, whether it's a swap or not, is gold.
Mm-hmm.
And so if it's something like that, and I'm the Bucks, and Giannis is saying, yeah, I'm going to stay through the rest of the season. They know he doesn't have a torn Achilles, of course. I might consider it, but it's just, what does this do for you? This is just about this season, then. Yeah. And so what does it do for you? Like maybe next season as well, if James Harden picks up his player option and wants to stay there. But it also does give you flexibility. Let's say you have James Harden. This season plays out. You do whatever. Giannis asks for out. You move him anyway. Now you can save still a bunch of money because James Harden's guaranteed, what was it, $10 or $13 million. Mm-hmm. So you're kind of playing both sides of the fence. I'm probably not doing this if I'm Milwaukee, in part because we have another trade that we're about to talk about in a second, where that might make a little bit more sense, but it's riskier in its own right. Where are you at with it?
I mean, the thing that's jumping out to me is I can't decide if it's stupider or like more justifiable to target Harden when clearly you targeted Damian Lillard, and how different are those two really in terms of what your vision for a Giannis counterpart are or is?
If anything,
right?
you're saying you want Giannis off the ball even more.
If you're saying, hey, we think Damian Lillard is the right guy for us, and I don't know, I mean, it looked okay, I guess it wasn't perfect certainly, but if that's still your theory, then Harden, the way Harden is playing right now, is better probably than the version of Damian Lillard you traded for, or at least close enough to it. And it's costing you less, I guess. Now, like, so therefore it's like, well, that was our plan before. We think it's a good plan. It's justifiable. Or is it stupider because of how the Damian Lillard thing worked out? The injury complicates that, but it's just kind of like, it is very much like the definition of insanity thing where it's like, let's do it again.
Yeah.
Let's see, you know, maybe it'll work for us. It's all the memes. I think, I don't know, if I'm the Bucks, I think I'm trying to expand this to be like, if I'm calling the Clippers, I just go for Kawhi instead, maybe.
Well, hey,
I don't know. Let's segue.
What a segue to that. We have a Kawhi to the Clippers trade, and Kawhi, you thought James Harden's trade value was difficult. I find Kawhi's incredibly difficult because not only do you have the specter of his injuries, there's also the possibility that he just simply retires if he's traded out of California, right? We have to cake that into anything. But
I mean, yeah.
The trade would basically be closer to the same. It's the Bucks receive Kawhi Leonard. They trade the Clippers Kyle Kuzma, Bobby Portis, Kevin Porter, and the 2032 first-round pick. Now, you could argue there needs to be more pick equity in there. If you're getting a 2032 Bucks pick at this point, and Kawhi and Giannis is the team, like, is their team, you're feeling pretty good as the Clippers. And so if you're trading Kawhi as part of or maybe they view this as opportunistic. As, no, we just want to get this Bucks pick and we're going to move. Maybe they're trading that Bucks pick to the Thunder to get their own pick back this year. One of those trades, who knows? What are you, who says no to this one?
Who says no to this? I'm having a hard time. Does that mean this is the best trade we've discussed? So here's the thing. I think Kawhi is harder to trade just because than Harden, because there's that $50 million sitting there next year that you're gonna have to pay him, unless the league negates his contract, I guess, which is like not totally impossible.
Do you think it's weird that Terry Rozier can't be traded while he's being investigated, but Kawhi seems like he can be? We've heard. I mean, he's still playing, so is it too different?
I think, well, clearly it's different. The league is treating it differently. I don't know that that's fair, but we'll see. The offer here does imply, though, at least in your opinion, that Kawhi is a less valuable trade asset than James Harden.
To me, he's less valuable from an availability perspective. And the Bucks need availability because it's not like they have a bunch of guys on the roster, but the whole point is we can't figure out how to exist without Giannis. And Kawhi Leonard is someone who you acquire knowing you need to figure out how to exist without him because he's going to miss time.
Well, but sure. But I think if I'm the Clippers, the reason I said I'm more interested in Kawhi is just like as the Bucks, you're already sort of like, if this is going to work, it's going to be a lightning in a bottle scenario where we're the 7th seed and we just go on a run and both our best guys are healthy. And like healthy Kawhi, healthy Giannis, I get it. Like saying healthy Kawhi is just like, what are you talking about? But those two guys on the same team in a playoff series, like that's, if you're looking for the lightning in a bottle route to like a conference finals, that's it. Is having those two guys much more so than Harden, just because we know what will happen with Harden, what has happened every time. So I'm more interested in Kawhi as the Bucks, even pricing in the major financial commitment of next season, whereas Harden, $13 million guaranteed. Kawhi, you're paying him 50. Like that's it. And you might get half a season, you might get less, you might get nothing. I think from the perspective of we've decided we're going to do the same thing and appease Giannis and try to build the most, build the team that has the best shot at like, just, I'm not getting lucky, but like peaking at the right time for a couple months and who knows what happens. It's Kawhi. And so I do this as the Bucks, I think. However, that only is true in the world we've created here that is a fiction where it's like Giannis is staying, we're not going to trade because you trade Giannis if you're acting rationally.
Right. And it's difficult because the theory of Kawhi Leonard is so much better and makes so much more sense for the Bucks than the theory of James Harden. But I would probably lean towards the reality of James Harden would do more for the Bucks than the reality of what you're going to get from
Do you
Kawhi
think
Leonard.
If you go to Giannis and say you can have one or the other, you tell us, Giannis, because you're in charge. Do you think he says James Harden?
No.
I don't either. I think
James Harden had that quote. Remember way back when of if I wish I was 7 feet and could just run around. Like didn't he denigrated Giannis? He was like the forefather of Giannis has no bag.
You're digging it up. Wow, I forgot about that. Yeah, they're mortal enemies. They can never play together.
We do need to come up with some other Kawhi Leonard trades though. I found his more difficult than others. There's a nuclear one that I really want to talk about, but let's go back. Let's revisit the Minnesota Timberwolves, Grant. So the deal kind of similar to what they'd be giving up for James Harden, but the Minnesota Timberwolves receive Kawhi Leonard. The Los Angeles Clippers get Julius Randle, Mike Conley, Rob Dillingham. The Brooklyn Nets receive Leonard Miller. I'm assuming they would just take a flyer on Leonard Miller because he's young and he might be a 3, he might be a 5. Who knows? I used to be Leonard Miller pilled. But is this, if you're we talked about this with the Bucks, if you're the Timberwolves, do you prefer Kawhi or James Harden if you're going after a trade asset? Or, I'm sorry, going after a player?
I think I'm going to be a broken record and say I'm always going to prefer Kawhi.
No, but even given the cost, so when it was James Harden, you were giving up Julius Randle and stuff. Now you're giving up Julius Randle and Rob Dillingham. I called Mike Conley and stuff. I apologize.
No, it is and stuff. I mean, I think I don't know. I don't know that Dillingham is going to be a factor at all this year. Conley, I think there's no upward trajectory there. So again, like if you're the Timberwolves, I do think it's defensible to say we just got to get better this year because we're at the stage of our evolution where it's like we're trying to win right now because next year, who knows, right? So you are really taking on risk where you might just be paying Kawhi $50 million to do nothing next year. But like Edwards, Kawhi, Gobert, like I think just having Kawhi makes Minnesota more dangerous as a playoff team than having the 3 guys they're losing here. Do you disagree with that?
I don't disagree, and I honestly think the Clippers probably want more, whether it's a swap or Terrence Shannon Jr. in there. And that's where I think if I'm Minnesota, I have to think longer about it. Because you're going the lightning in a bottle route, but I think that's okay when it's just Rob Dillingham because you've kind of decided, like you said before, if he actualizes into what they thought he was going to be, it's not going to be on the timeline they're currently operating within. It's where it would get iffy for me is if the Clippers said, well, because the Timberwolves can trade swaps, or if you want to give up Terrence Shannon Jr., which sounds kind of stupid, but it's also you have to cake in Kawhi Leonard missing games. And so that's the perspective I'm coming at it from.
You do and you don't, though, because like if he's missing games in the playoffs, then okay, this was a mistake. But we're playing the upside. And
do you think there's anything, and I mentioned this with Harden, so Kawhi has this year and then next year left on his deal, right? And then he's done. Yep. Do you think that there might be something to the Timberwolves also saying, okay, he's basically the same cost as Julius Randle over this time in total, but Julius Randle has that player option on the 3rd year, so we're kind of shortening. If this doesn't really work out, okay, it's over sooner. Because if it doesn't work out by next season and Julius Randle's still there, you have less control over what you're going to do at that point.
Yeah, I think there's some element there. I guess looking at it too from the Clippers side, like I think you said, like the Dillingham, you have to be pretty pro Dillingham from the Clippers perspective to go for this, because like Randle, it's the reverse argument. It's like Randle, roughly the same money as Kawhi, but it's extended over a third year. Is he a center? Like what are you doing as the Clippers? Like this isn't a rebuild move. This is kind of a try to have it both ways, where you get like a borderline all-star guy in him. I don't know what purpose Conley really serves there. And
that's why they sent Chris Paul home, to make room for Mike Conley.
They make room. The only point guard that is close to in age to him. And then Dylan. Yeah, I don't know. The Clippers side is tough here. Maybe I'm overvaluing Kawhi. This might be just what you can get.
Well, that's what's tough. I mean, if this is probably what you could get as the Clippers, I might, unless you have another destination lined up for Julius Randle in which you're getting stuff. But I mean, like the thing that Minnesota could do, that's not going to help them. Well, I guess no, because their pick is gone in 2028. So I mean, Minnesota can offer swaps, like a 2032 swap. Does that do anything for you? The Clippers have a pick then.
Not a lot, I'll be honest. Let's see. Let's do another. Do you have anything else on the Minnesota trade?
No. What other Kawhi trade?
Okay. Let's.
By the way, I like the idea of Kawhi in Minnesota. I like the idea of Kawhi in a lot of places, but Minnesota, if I had to put Dillingham and any pick swap on the table that I need to, and Julius Randle to go get Kawhi Leonard, I'm doing it. I think I'm with you.
Edwards, Kawhi, McDaniels, Gobert, like that.
Nas Reed, insane. Donte DiVincenzo's still there.
And if you hold on to Shannon, I mean, that's not a fun team to deal with if you get playoff Edwards defense. All right, let's talk about the Kangs.
This would be such a Kings move to do. Would be, hey, he's going to report. We're in California. This will work out.
Well, they would totally okay. So the deal is the Kings get Kawhi, the Clippers get DeMar DeRozan, Malik Monk, first round pick, or Zach LaVine and a first round pick. You choose, Clippers. Which would you prefer? So in the
I think I prefer
scenario,
Zach LaVine in a first round pick. By the way, is what
would you?
Yeah.
What DeRozan's got like a partial guarantee next year though, right? He's
guaranteed. I think 10 or 12 million, whatever it ends up being.
He's on the books for 25.7. The arrow hovering over his salary is not telling. I think you're right. It's like 10. All right. So in that first scenario with the DeRozan, Monk, and first rounder, the Kings would be in the tax, so they'll definitely do that one after the first scenario. In scenario 2, the question is, would Keon Ellis need to be attached in a LaVine deal? So it's sort of like, is LaVine a negative enough asset where in addition to a first rounder, you have to throw in a dirt cheap, like starting caliber wing?
I think if the compensation for Kawhi is a Kings pick, you have my attention regardless of what else is in the package at this point. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. No, I think that's right. Well, I guess what's the core question here is, I guess as the Clippers, would you rather have you'd rather have LaVine in the pick than DeRozan?
I'm not LaVine pilled, but I still think, especially I think LaVine and he could replace kind of a lot of what Norman Powell was doing for them last year. But to your point, the other thing is, though, you mentioned DeMar DeRozan has that partial guarantee. With Zach LaVine, there has been some speculation that he'd be willing to opt out and then sign a deal that's worth less over a longer term. And if he's making $33 million a year, he might all of a sudden become an asset again.
Yeah,
for all we know.
That's true. A lot changes if he's not making close to 50.
And if you're going to throw Keon Ellis in there for sure, then I'm absolutely doing it. The other thing, I just don't, because this is, and if you're Sacramento, you're justifying this by saying, well, all right, if Sabonis gets healthy, we'll have enough guards somewhere, like to do something. Russell Westbrook is here. And with Kawhi, Keegan Murray, if you're able to keep Ellis, imagine what we could do this season. Let's get it. Like the beam. Straight up into the eyeballs of our fans.
I mean, is it wrong to say I'll do whichever of these deals includes Keon Ellis? But I think either one. I'm gonna be the Kings for a second. Guys, Kawhi Leonard, if we get him, that's a huge name, so we should do it. And then if the Kings had good advisors or people making decisions, someone would pipe up and say, like, he's never going to play for us. Like he might stay on the roster. He's just never going to play, right? Like, isn't that the outcome here? If the Kings go get Kawhi, he's just not going to, if he does play, it'll be even more sporadic than it's been. Like, what possible interest would he have? It is in California. You're right. The Kings would probably make that argument to themselves to justify doing this. He's also, clearly the best player in the deal, but he's not. Why would Kawhi want to be here?
Well, okay, hold on. He's not getting those $7 million payouts anymore from Aspiration, so you're going to want to collect your full salary. So if you want to get paid your $50 million salary, you subject yourself to whatever's going on in Sacramento. This is just,
what else,
this. Go ahead.
Sacramento is the city of trees, and Kawhi has vast experience with tree planting. He's an arborist, I hear, and also I don't know. Maybe there's a car. It's just, it fits, right? Like Kawhi knows his trees. He knows how to, whatever. What did Aspiration do? Supposedly, what was something with trees? I don't know.
Yeah, they were going to plant a tree as a carbon offset.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Sacramento loves trees.
Honestly, wouldn't this be something that the Kings would just do? This is right up their alley.
Anytime you ask that question, the answer is yes.
Yeah, fair enough. So we have a final one, and it's kind of nuclear. This is our last one, right?
Very.
I want to know I want to know what you think about this, and I hope Brian Toporek is listening too, because I'd love to know what he thinks about this. Are you ready, Grant? Kawhi Leonard of Philadelphia 76ers reunites with Paul George. The Clippers receive Joel Embiid and their own 2028 first-round pick back. The Sixers receive Kawhi, Kobe Sanders, Chris Dunn, and 2 second-round picks in 2031 and 2032. Now, the core question is, are the Clippers willing to eat what's left on Joel Embiid's deal, which is a very long time? There's a case to be made that Joel Embiid is on the worst contract in the NBA.
Oh, yeah.
Is it worth it just to get control over a pick back? I think the Sixers also have swap rights on the Clippers in 2029. So is this a situation where you need to get both of those back? And so who is saying no with all of those moving parts? I thought this was interesting. It's not being thrown out there, I think, because from the Clippers' perspective, that's 2 drafts away is the soonest we would get. But I also found it somewhat interesting because what if Joel Embiid is just lightning it up? Him and Zoo playing together? Who knows? Or you're getting, look, here's the thing, is you could make this trade after making the trade with OKC that we outlined, and poof, all of a sudden, you've got all your picks back in 26, 27, 28, and maybe 29.
I love this as a hypothetical. Would you take on the worst contract in the NBA? Let's just assume that's what this is, for 3 years of draft control back. Like, is that a better situation than the Clippers are about to be in?
Yes.
In reality.
Yes.
I think it is too. I think you might do this. Like, you just look, even if you just said Embiid is dead money, let's just say, this is a $60 million plus cap hit. It's like we amnestied somebody or something. Like, it's just on our books, right? Worst case scenario, let's view it that way. I think you pay $60 million, you fire $60 million a year into the sun for 3 more years to get control of your draft back. I think you do that as the Clippers. And I don't think it's that hard of a decision, as crazy as that sounds.
No, you do it. I think do you do it if the OKC trade is not happening?
Right. If we just say it's just this, so you're getting 1 year of your draft
Let's say,
back?
do you think it's both? Does it need, well, let's game it out. From the Sixers perspective, are you considering this at all? 1 pick, 2 pick, whatever.
Yeah,
you are.
Okay. Yeah, I don't you? Just to get off their side of it's a little different. Like, just to get this cap charge, this dead cap money, this cap charge off the books, right? What's it worth? What are you willing to pay? I mean, it's definitely 1 first rounder, I think.
Look, I'm not gonna lie. If I'm the Clippers, I might do it if it's just the 2028
just for the 1
pick.
I mean, well, so let's game that out, because you're, as the Clippers, you're taking on the Embiid experience, which, like, maybe I don't believe this, but maybe as the Clippers, you can say he might give us a season in there where he's an all NBA player. I don't know. That's marketable. And we're just running the clock out here. We did this for the pick, and the byproduct is maybe we're relevant for one of these years because Embiid finally holds together. You could talk a room of decision makers into that possibility, right? Like maybe. If it's just for the one, you get this one pick that's a couple years out, that's
so it has to be both. You're getting your two then, and because you are also giving up Kobe Sanders and 2 second-round picks. So the thought process there would be you're regaining control of those two first. I'm doing that deal if you've made the OKC deal. Let's say you make the OKC deal already. Philly could probably ransom the hell out of you for just the one.
Yeah.
Let's say the OKC deal's not. Let's just say that NBA executives, they all don't listen to this podcast, which would be weird, and we know that's not true. The Thunder deal isn't happening. If I'm the Clippers, for both of the picks back, I'm still doing this. I know it's kind of that weird intervening timeline then, but what you just laid out would be a reason to not have Joel Embiid on the roster if you get your own picks back in 26 and 27, because what if he is good? Then you're not maximizing the value of those selections.
Have the Clippers traded Harden in this hypothetical? Because now we're reuniting Harden and Embiid, and that's fun.
Well, Harden and Embiid weren't the problem.
I know, but it's just like we're sending Kawhi back to Paul George. We're sending Harden and Embiid to. It's like what we're just shuffling deck chairs here. That's not to say that this isn't interesting. It's just kind of wild that's where we are as both of these teams. Is you're willing to just kind of swap problems en masse.
I honestly think so. What you're effectively doing. So Joel Embiid's extension hasn't started yet. Looking at after this season, Kawhi has 1 year and $50 million left. Joel Embiid has 3 years and 188 plus. I actually think though, knowing all that, the Sixers would be the team that is more likely to say no to this, especially if the 2029 swap is. I keep talking. I pretend like I know all these picks like right off cuff, like who owes what. I'm assuming that they don't have. Yes, Philly, the Clippers have the right to swap with Philly. So you're only getting Philly has the right to swap. It's 2000. Oh, no, Philly could swap with, excuse me.
I think you had it right.
Yeah, I apologize. I apologize for being right.
So if we just break this down to a who says no, you're saying it's the Sixers that say no here?
That should be. If a side says no and it's the Clippers, I have some questions.
Yeah, right. And I guess it's harder to take Philly's perspective and say, like, what's Kawhi Leonard getting us this year and next year that gives us a higher ceiling than the Embiid possibility?
I mean,
I don't know.
You have VJ Edgecombe and Tyrese Maxey having another bigger wing in there when you have so many guards that need Jared McCain needing minutes.
I think the cleanest piece of this analysis is just that the Clippers should probably be willing to take on Joel Embiid's contract to get control of their draft back, which is the thing we've just circled back to a million times, whether it's talking about OKC or any other team. It's like that has to be priority one, I think is maybe the way to kind of start wrapping this up.
Right. And I think that comes back to just the core question of all of this is, do you actually think that the Clippers should blow it up, knowing all the movie? Because the stuff we outlined, yes, in a perfect world, what you could say is, yeah, the Clippers, they do the Zubats thing and then they do the Embiid thing. You're not going to do all those things. You're probably not even going to do any of these things, even if you're moving Harden or Kawhi. These are all just different permutations. Are the Clippers at a point, and you just operate under the assumption they're not getting this year's pick back, they're not getting 2027 back as our core just baseline, do you blow it up anyway? Just to kind of deviate from whatever the heck is going on right now? Or because of the way your draft obligations are set up, are you just saying, we're just going to see this through and reevaluate year over year? Maybe we'll get lucky in free agency in 2026 or 2027.
I think if we stipulate that they're not getting 26 and 27 back, I think it makes it justifiable to not blow it up. If you can get those back, then like 10 times out of 10, you're
11 times out of 10.
Just it's every single time out of every single time you're blowing it up. If you can't get those back from the Thunder, I think the reason you still might consider it is like doesn't have so much to do with our draft assets and our flexibility and our timeline. It's more just like this is an untenable situation, like from a personality standpoint, and we don't think we can go forward with Ty Lue as the coach, or we don't think, it would have to be more like stuff that we're not really talking about when we're talking about these trades. It's more just like this situation is bad and like we won't get anything good out of it because there's off-court stuff, or there's just the vibes are too far gone, right? Like you could justify it on those grounds where you're starting to look at Harden or Kawhi trades that aren't going to just like give you this hard reset with your picks coming back.
I think what I struggle with the most is that I'm with you where it's just, if you're not getting your own picks back, it's absolutely justifiable to do absolutely nothing and hope this thing turns around. What is the evidence that it's going to turn around? Because I look at it and they've been outscored by 5.5 points per 100 possessions with James Harden and Kawhi on the floor. And their offense has been barely above average. Like, what are you banking on getting better? It's not like Kawhi has been terrible. It's not like James Harden has been terrible. Chris Paul was terrible and not really playing. What is the harbinger? What is the signal that you actually can, the fact that you're not going to try to integrate Bradley Beal? Because I just, a lot of it, and I love boiling stuff down to vibes, but so much with the Clippers continues to come back to, like, the vibes are off, the personnel has changed too much, it's getting too old. What is the evidence that this is just going into? I haven't seen anything this season. Like, yeah, there have been some plucky lineups, especially with Harden and Zoo. A lot of times Kawhi might not be on the floor for it, where it's all right. Like, you might see, but they seem like they've kind of turned over so much of the identity of last year's team to where it's just they were out in transition more, even though we saw that did decline year over year. The defensive identity was there, and that's just, okay, I guess if Derrick Jones Jr. gets healthy, are you planning on bringing I don't know what and maybe that's the problem, is I can't boil it down to a singular problem. And that's what makes this team so confusing. And so I lean towards just rip the Band-Aid off. This is just like, because what are you fighting for? Right. If you can get even first-round picks from other teams and protected, or prospect flyers from other teams don't trade Zoo. Like, he's someone he's young, he's in his prime, so he's not Harden or Kawhi, like entering exiting his heyday, excuse me. Don't trade him just for anything, but get what you can for these guys who are basically placeholders anyway when you're looking at your cap space plans for maybe this summer, but certainly in 2027.
I think if you're looking for a signal or for evidence, like there's nothing that's readily apparent. I do think from the Clippers side of it, the justification for not blowing it up is just that, like, we're sticking to our priors. We put this team together, and like, we bought it for, by the way, like, we thought that
fair.
That's fair. This outcome is what we, or at least I can't remember what you thought. I think we were pretty close in this. Thought was going to happen last year to the Clippers.
Yep.
They're too old. Yep. You can't rely on their two core guys. This is a mess. They're going to win 32 games or whatever, something like that. 32 feels high at the moment, but the team they put together this year, now Beal's out. I didn't really factor Beal in all that much to begin with, like when thinking the Clippers would win mid to high 40s.
And neither of us were completely sold on the Beal and John Collins for Norman Powell swap that they basically made.
But I definitely made the case that, like, well, Powell can't possibly play this well again. And I was right, because he's playing better. It was a right and wrong way. But just
to make sure I'm not trying to deflect blame, I predicted that the Clippers would finish in top 7 of offense and defense this season. So
we were both. I mean, like, I think maybe partly as a reaction to how badly we missed on the
last year, we
25 Clippers. We overcorrected, but the theory of the team was sound. Like, yeah, they're old. That's true. But we thought the bench would be good. We thought Collins would be better than this. We thought Bogdanovich would help. We thought Lopez wouldn't be totally washed. Thought Chris Paul would be on the team. Like, some of that is like the Beal and Paul stuff. All right, well, that's definitely not going to play out how we thought. Is there something to be said for just saying this is the first quarter of the season? It went as badly as you could have possibly imagined, short of just like Leonard and Harden not playing at all. We still think the theory we put this team together under has something to it, right? Like, and maybe that paired with, as we just illustrated, the difficulty of getting good stuff for your tradable assets not named Zubats is pretty high. I don't know. Like, maybe you trust that this can't get worse, and some of what we thought in the offseason putting this team together was right. Now, I still think they should blow it up. I think that's the right move. I could just see them, if they don't do it, that's probably the argument, right? Is that just like, I don't know, we still believe to some extent in this vision.
Right. It'd be that, and what are we getting? by blowing it up.
Yes,
because that's what's none of the deals. But was there any of the deals we laid out, whether it was for Kawhi or Harden, that because we even got them John Morant and Trae Young in one of them, and that was, well, does that really make sense for mortgage more of your future? Were there any deals or like that you have just absolutely pounced on as the Clippers? And the answer to me was anything Bucks related. I'm, if I can get some of those Bucks picks, pieces of those, absolutely. Beyond that, though, if that's what you're going to get, then you could just say, well, then why don't we'll see this through? We're not getting any of these real high-end like, is Jalen Green a high-end flyer? Is Rob Dillingham a high-end flyer? I don't know. Probably not.
I think every piece of the analysis changes if you can get the Thunder to trade you back your picks. But why would the Thunder, why would they want to do that?
I'm sorry. If I'm the Thunder, the offer we laid out, I think, was a real one. The three.
Oh, no, right. But just zooming out, I can't think of a team, well, one, because there have almost never been any teams like this that were as good as the Thunder that were like, yeah, let's swing a trade like this in the middle of the season. Don't you want to just take your hands off the controls as the Thunder a little bit?
Well, we mentioned this, or I mentioned this at the end of the actual discussion with that. What if the Thunder we're not bringing in Zubats? This ends up being just kind of a picks trade. I mean, Kenrich Williams is an icon in Oklahoma City, so I get but Ousmane Dieng's not going to be around much longer. So you're moving those two guys. Maybe Zubats goes to Boston, is a team that he's been floated for. You could probably get 2 first-round picks if you're taking some money from Boston. And so what you're basically doing is you're not really messing with your locker room dynamics at all, because you're not bringing in someone who, there's this weird minutes push and pull, Holmgren, Hartenstein, Zubats, and you're going to end up with, you lose the next 2 Clippers picks. You gain control out years over their 3 picks in 2030, 2031, 2032, and then you're getting another control over another 2 first-round picks, a pick and a swap. That's not. I mean,
that would be the most exciting outcome, is if the Thunder really did engage. I hope it happens, but for both sides, because this saves the Clippers and it makes the Thunder even more interesting. It's kind of a win-win.
Do you have anything else? Are you ready to take us out of here?
No. Great talk. Thanks, everybody, for listening, for watching. Remember, please rate, review, subscribe. Leave us some comments on this. Let us know what stones we did not turn over on the Kawhi and Harden and everything trade, Zubats, Thunder trade fronts. Join our Discord. Links for that in the YouTube and podcast description. Tell your friends. Tell your enemies. Shouts Frank Ntilikina. Apologies, Jarrett Allen.